and controversial issues, so I had a pretty good feel for how to operate in that kind of environment. I will say the biggest learning curve is just trying to figure out how to manage my time, because particularly the first 6 months that I was in office, I mean, the deluge of requests for your time are unbelievable. Not just formally for like meetings or lunch meetings, or just people stopping you cold on the street, and the emails and the voicemails, and it's the phone calls directly. We had at Sultana, we had to tell people to stop coming into our office because it was becoming like the mayoral headquarters. And so it's very, very tricky for somebody with a legit full-time job. It's really tough. Credit. We have, I think, a council that works really well together right now. I like the dynamics. Everybody kind of has their own niche and their own pet projects, but I think collaboratively, for the most part, when we disagree, we do it with a certain level of civility, which I really demand. I hate when, seeing other towns or other older meetings where people are just yelling at each other like they're in middle school. That doesn't get anything accomplished. So yes, we've definitely picked up the ball on some projects that where we just needed new energy and new ideas and some follow through. And it's, yeah, I'm proud to say that we either got a lot of things done or we got the ball moving or rolling in the right direction, and hopefully we'll start getting some of those projects done in the next year or two. I have to say, I think our most underrated accomplishment was the town had bid out a solar array for our part of our electrical energy consumption, and it was just something that I thought I wanted the town to look into, and so we, under my urging, reopened bids. Basically, the town opened some bids. Some folks on the council were reticent to move forward, and it basically got tabled for a couple of years. So we rebid the project, and it just so happens that when we bid this solar array out, there was a little window in time where these companies needed to get their systems approved by municipalities for tax breaks. And so it turned out that the bids we received for our solar array were phenomenal. And we will be saving right off the bat in year one, 33% on our electric. And the rate is locked in at the level that you start at for 20 years. So as the cost of traditional electric sources go up in the next 20 years, our cost will be level, and we could end up saving, 100% plus in years 10 through 20. And that, to me, is one of those things that you don't really see or hear or read a lot about, but it's really going to be a nice legacy for a generation of our residents. And hopefully we can do some good things with the wriggle room that will create in our budget. But I'll tell you that the most complicated and ambitious thing on our plate is restoring the marina. It involves multiple landowners. It's very expensive to repair a facility like that. I do think that there's a role for the municipality there, because it got to the point in the private sector where it just didn't make sense financially for somebody to buy that, fix it up, and continue operating it as a marginally profitable marina. But I was really hoping that we could knock the design out that we needed to really quickly. And when you do everything in a very public process with charrettes, it just takes time, and it's going to be a project that, unless we get, a guardian angel or the state comes through with a nice sum of money in the 7 figures, it'll probably be something where we're cobbling together 10, 15, 20, $100,000 grants and doing it over an extended period of time. And the reason that that's concerning to me is because that facility urgently needs the attention. There's a reason that the town got involved, and it's because it's so expensive. And it's kind of counterintuitive. So I wouldn't say that's been disappointing, but it's one of those projects where I'm like, wow, we really have a lot of work to do to make this right. Well, this fall, I'm hoping that we can fix the bulkheading. We have a $200,000 grant in hand. We have a $200,000 gift that the college gave as part of their armory purchase, and so we can put those monies together and knock out part of the infrastructure that needs to be dealt with. We have money, we've had money kind of in the pipeline for dredging, but we've never had the permitting that we need and a spoil site lined up, which we do have now. So some things are starting to fall into place. We have a design that was basically signed off on by the community members that chose to get involved, which is about the best you can hope for. We've made some important design decisions, and I feel like for the first time in my tenure, I have the tools that I need: a design, cost estimates. We have Joe Carlick, a very talented graphic design artist who has a studio out in Kennedyville, making 3D renderings of what a rehabbed marina will look like, so that people that can't really envision it will see what's possible, and that we can take that to funders and get people excited about it. And that's what we're going to need. But it's going to need laser sharp focus, due diligence that we just keep plugging away. And hopefully in the next couple of years, people will really start to see those improvements. We made a big ask for basically a lump sum from the governor's capital budget. And looking at the capital budget, we did not get an allocation. And it was a very tricky year to make that ask. There was a giant deficit that I'm sure everybody read about. And also we were switching governors, which happens very rarely. I plan to go right back to that well, but this time I'll have a whole year to hopefully have a binder this thick of hundreds of letters of, support for the project from our business owners, citizens that are interested, the Kent County Department of Tourism, hopefully local elected officials, and that's really what we need. When we made the ask in the fall, honestly, I was just kind of throwing a haymaker. I felt like we had to make the ask. The timing was not particularly good. So once with our ducks lined up, we just need to keep going. If you don't ask, we're not going to get it. But if you want to talk about somebody who holds a lot of the cards for the future of Chestertown, look no further than Washington College. Between their holdings on the river, adjacent to the river at Stepney Manor, even with some of their existing properties north and west of their campus where they have other plans, what they do there and how they do the development at Stepney is going to be it could be a game changer. I really do believe that if it's done tastefully, if they, take heed to some of the recommendations in the comprehensive plan, like involving, public access with a waterfront walk along the river and winding that back through a development at Stepney and bringing those pedestrians that will eventually occupy the houses at Stepney back into the town. That you really start to get a critical mass of really neat attractions that are great for the residents and great for the institution, also bring potentially a lot more tourism dollars in here. That could really be a transformative build out. The thing that's challenging for me is I still haven't seen a concept drawing of what they really want to do. I think internally there's still some disagreement there. So I totally endorse their activities conceptually, but it's hard for me to endorse them in a very concrete way until I see what buildings are we talking about here. What's the layout of Stepney? Is there going to be a hotel down there? Is the armory going to be saved, or do you have other ideas? And so until we get those a little bit more further along in their planning process, I think we can have a more meaningful dialogue rather than one that's kind of in the abstract right now. But conceptually, I'm on board. Everybody, I think that's a thinking person, realizes what a tremendous asset they are to the community. They're one of our biggest employers. They move the needle economically. If we can work together to get more students downtown, that helps our businesses and them. So there's so many opportunities for collaboration there that could really strengthen both the institution and the town. The letter was most pertinent when it was submitted to the Planning Commission, who was doing a comprehensive plan review. And that plot has been discussed many, many times in the town's history, and people have requested to change it to commercial zoning, and they've been denied several times. And it's largely because the thing that makes the most sense there for commercial is a giant convenience store. And to be honest, I don't think that's what we want as a gateway entrance to our community. You could draw a 3-mile circle around that corner and count probably 14 convenience stores. So my personal belief is that it's zoned appropriately right now. The other thing that's tricky is that I don't personally think the college should be in the planning and zoning business. Yes, like they're a big employer and they're an important group, but if I flip the zoning on one piece of ground for them because they feel like it was the easiest way to sell it, then that sets a really bad precedent when John Q. Public wants to do the same thing for his private residents, Maybe he wants to turn it into a bar. I don't know. But, you know, they should be going through the exact same procedure and have the exact same amount of influence as every other taxpayer, from the guy that makes $20,000 a year to Dixon Valve, who makes millions of dollars a year. It is. Oh, and one of the other requests they made in that letter is basically they looked at the zoning for the waterfront, which is institutional. We basically did that for the college because they had said, hey, we're going to put this waterfront campus here. So when we rezone the town on the planning commission level, we zone that institutional, which in theory streamlines the zoning process for them. And then Stepney, across of Quaker Neck Road, is zoned for high density residential. So they came to us and said, hey, could you make this a sub area plan? In other words, instead of saying you've got to have all the apartments here and only college stuff over here, can we kind of draw a big circle around that whole area so that we can plan it comprehensively? And I think that's an area where we can provide flexibility. And in fact, that's what you want to have from a planning perspective, so that when you do something like that with a comprehensive perspective rather than a piecemeal perspective, you can have things like a road that starts at the manor home and goes all the way to the river and preserves that river view that you get on a high street or a Cannon Street. Or, you know, if they wanted to put one of their dorms back from the water and maybe we needed to maneuver a road in a different way, we could do that. And in fact, if it made sense and the plan looked nice, you know, I think that's an area where we can certainly be flexible. But flipping the zoning on a corner because they think it's hard to sell with one zoning and easier to sell with another, to me, that doesn't rise to the same level where the town should compromise. Because really what they want is zoning that makes it easier for them to sell. At least that's what my understanding is. When I first came into office, I would say the relationship between the college and the town were not necessarily on the greatest footing. And sometimes that has to deal with personalities at the top of both the town and the institution. You know, the interim president, Jay Griswold, has been nothing but gracious and very communicative with me, and hopefully he feels the same way back. I know they're going to have some interesting structural changes on their board level to help get their capital campaign up and running. And I think they've got the right, if they want to do something ambitious, they've got the right people in place. I would also say on the town's behalf, we have a very well thought out, comprehensive plan. And I don't see any reason why they can't do most of what they want to do within the boundaries that are set out by the community. So yes, I think there's room for collaboration. I would love to continue to keep the dialogue going the way that it's been in the last year, and you know, hopefully they'll get the donations that they need to make their dreams come true, because a healthy college ultimately is a great thing for keeping the community healthy as a whole. Going in collaboratively on fundraising with an entity like the college is interesting, because let's say the money was raised mostly all by the college and some of it was given to fund the rehab of the marina, for example. It's always challenging, you know, trying to figure out, okay, what does that mean long-term for use of the facility, for maintenance of the facility? And so those are some of the nuts and bolts where you really need everybody to be on board. And, you know, they've got a board of, I don't know how big it is, I'm going to say 15 to 20, and I've got a council of 5, and to get all those egos and personalities to agree is a challenge. I agree, like it would be great, let's say the college announces a $200 million capital campaign, which that's a number I've just heard on the street. Man, for me it would be amazing if they said, let's raise that by 1% to a $202 million campaign, and $2 million of that could go to help the town have matching funds for the marina, which ultimately, if the marina was nice, you would think that would help their efforts just a quarter of a mile down. To me, it comes back to what is their plan. I need more details. Conceptually, I've been told, hey, we're doing a waterfront campus, we're doing something at the Armory site, we're going to try to partner with KRM at Stepney, we'd love to have commercial zoning at this corner lot, but again, like that's as far, that's basically what I know. And I can't jump into the waters any further until I see what they really mean by that.